a flicker in the pre-dawn darkness of the Gobi. It is not a star. Stars do not swell with such deliberate intensity. This light is terrestrial, born of human hands and immense ambition. It is the nascent fire of a Long March rocket standing sentinel in the heart of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, a place where history and the future are fused in superheated plasma. Another countdown echoes across the immense silent expanse. For the observers here, this spectacle has become almost routine, a cadence so frequent it borders on the mundane. Almost. But the spectacle of a controlled stellar ignition never truly loses its power. This single brilliant ascent is but one note in an immense symphony. A vast coordinated effort is unfolding across an entire continent, largely beyond the gaze of a world preoccupied with other matters. In the year 2025, a threshold was crossed, a quiet barrier shattered. China is on pace to launch over 100 rockets into orbit, a staggering tempo that averages one ascendant vehicle every 3 to 4 days. This is not merely an increase in activity, it is a fundamental transformation, a state-driven metamorphosis from a cautious spacefarer into a relentless, high-frequency superpower in the heavens. The question that hangs in the vapor trail of each rising craft is not just how, but why. What cosmic imperative, what terrestrial strategy is fueling this unprecedented torrent of launches, to this great migration of machinery into the void? This is the story of a new Great Wall, not of stone and earth, but of fire and trajectory, an infrastructure project of celestial scale. It is the story of a space race that has not just been rekindled but entirely redefined for a new century. To comprehend the sheer scale of this achievement, one must decentralize their thinking. The mind instinctively pictures a single launch pad, a singular Cape Canaveral. The reality is a distributed network, a quartet of strategic assets, each with its own purpose, its own unique character and climate. There is Jiuquan, the oldest, the cradle of the Chinese space program, etched into the barren windswept plains of Inner Mongolia. It is the site of legacy, the place from which Yang Liwei, the first taikonaut, greeted his nation from the blackness of orbit. Its cold, dry air is ideal for launches, its remoteness a shield for endeavors of a sensitive military nature. Then travel southeast to Taiwan, nestled in the mountains of Shaanxi province. This is the workhorse for assets destined for polar orbits. The sun's synchronous pathways that allow satellites to pass over the same part of the Earth at the same local time each day. From here, the eyes of China are cast into orbit, weather satellites, reconnaissance platforms, a constant stream of data collectors that trace longitudinal lines over a planet of ever-increasing strategic value. Further south, in the subtropical hills of Sichuan, lies Xichang. For decades, this was the primary gateway to the high frontier, the geostationary orbit 36000 kilometers above the equator. Its inland location, while secure, posed limitations. Rockets launched from here had to be transported by rail, restricting their diameter and consequently their power. Xichang is the story of making do of ingenious engineering within formidable constraints, the symbol of an older, more cautious era. But the jewel in the crown, the engine of this new aggressive cadence, is Wenchang. Located on the tropical island of Hainan, it is China's newest and most capable spaceport. Its coastal position opens up the heavens. Massive rocket components too large for any railway can arrive by sea. Its proximity to the equator provides a natural velocity boost from Earth's rotation, allowing heavier payloads to be lifted with greater efficiency. Here, amidst coconut groves and the warm waters of the South China Sea, the colossal Long March 5 and the forthcoming Long March 9 stand ready. Wenchang is not just a launch site, it is a statement of intent. Imagine, if you will, the construction of the original Great Wall of China. It was not built in a single year or even a single decade. It was a multi-generational, dynasty-spanning project. Sections were built, connected, reinforced, and expanded. Different materials were used in different regions, adapted to the local terrain. The ultimate goal was a singular, unified system of defense and communication. China's space infrastructure has been developed with a similar philosophy. Each launch site is a fortress, a bastion. Each rocket family a different legion specialized for a particular task. The relentless launch schedule of today is the final phase of this construction project, the frantic, ceaseless work of populating this new celestial wall with sentinels, gateways, and supply lines. 100 launches in a year is not a momentary surge. It is the system reaching its intended operational capacity. This grand endeavour is carried aloft by a fleet of launch vehicles, the Long March or Changzheng rocket family. The name itself is a deliberate echo of a foundational event in the history of the Chinese Communist Party, a grueling military retreat that forged a new identity. These rockets are presented as pillars of national rejuvenation. There is the workhorse Long March 2F, the reliable carrier for Taikonaut crews. The versatile Long March 3 series handles the bulk of communication satellites. The newer Long March 7 serves as the primary resupply freighter for the space station. And then there is the Titan, the Long March 5, the heavy lifter. This is the vehicle that carried the Tianwen 1 mission to Mars and the Chang'e 5 to the Moon. Its success was a hard-won victory born from a dramatic failure on its second flight that grounded the program for 2 years. This episode reveals the Chinese approach patient, methodical, and relentless. A failure is not a catastrophe to be mourned, but a data point to be analysed, a problem to be solved with overwhelming engineering focus until it is solved completely. Yet this story is no longer solely about state-run monoliths. A vibrant commercial space sector is now erupting across the country, spurred on by government incentives and a clear strategic directive. Companies like Landspace, iSpace, and Galactic Energy are developing their own rockets, often pioneering technologies like methane-fueled engines in parallel with their Western counterparts. They are populating low Earth orbit with commercial constellations, adding yet another layer of volume and complexity to the launch manifest. This is not privatization in the Western sense, but a state-guided ecosystem, a hybrid model designed to foster innovation and speed, while ensuring that all progress ultimately serves the national interest. To truly grasp the motivations behind this astronomic surge, we must journey back in time, not just decades, but centuries. China's connection to the cosmos is ancient and profound. Its astronomers were among the first to meticulously map the heavens to record supernovae and chart the passage of comets. The stars were not a realm of myth, but a source of order, a celestial bureaucracy that mirrored the emperor's court on Earth. To lose this connection, to fall behind in the understanding and utilization of the heavens, was seen as a deep cultural and strategic failure. The modern incarnation of this ambition was forged in the crucible of the 20th century. Its architect was a man named Qian Shusen, one of the most brilliant minds of the early rocket age. Educated at MIT and Caltech, he was a co-founder of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory and held the rank of colonel in the US Army. He was an instrumental figure in the American race to develop ballistic missiles, but in the paranoid political climate of the 1,950 seconds, he was accused of communist sympathies. His security clearance was revoked and he was placed under house arrest. In 1955, he was deported to China in exchange for American prisoners of war. A senior Pentagon official would later call it the stupidest thing this country ever did. Qian gave China's nascent rocketry program an unimaginable head start. He established the system, trained the first generation of engineers, and laid the theoretical groundwork for everything that was to come. His work was driven by a single powerful idea that without an independent capability to reach space, China would forever be vulnerable, forever subject to the whims and technological dominance of other superpowers. For decades, the program he founded proceeded with deliberate caution. While America and the Soviet Union engaged in a frantic, high-risk race to the moon, China took smaller incremental steps. It achieved its first satellite launch in 1970. It developed its own human spaceflight capability, slowly, methodically culminating in Yang Liwei's flight in 2003, more than 40 years after Yuri Gagarin. The guiding philosophy was not to be first, but to be successful, to build a foundation of such unshakable reliability that future, more ambitious goals could be pursued without fear of systemic collapse. A pivotal moment, a turning point that arguably catalyzed the current explosion of activity, came not from a success but from an exclusion. In the 1,990 seconds as the International Space Station was being designed, the United States passed laws, most notably the Wolf Amendment, that effectively barred NASA from any meaningful collaboration with the Chinese space program. Citing concerns over technology transfer and the military nature of China's program, America closed the door to the largest international scientific project in history. China was left with two choices: abandon its human spaceflight ambitions or build its own space station. It chose the latter. This exclusion, intended to isolate and contain, instead had the opposite effect. It lit a fire. It created a powerful multi-decade national goal that unified the scientific, political, and military establishments. If China was not welcome at the international table, it would build its own better table. That new table is now fully assembled in low Earth orbit. It is called Tiangong, the Heavenly Palace. A modular modern space station, it is the crown jewel of the Chinese human spaceflight program. The launch of its core module Tianhe and its two laboratory modules, Wentian and Mengtian, were landmark events, each carried aloft by the mighty Long March 5B. Tiangong is more than just a scientific outpost. It is a symbol of autonomy. It is a platform for international cooperation, but on China's terms. Scientists from around the world, from nations excluded from the ISS or seeking alternative partners, are now sending their experiments to be hosted on Tiangong. As the International Space Station ages and faces an uncertain future, Tiangong is positioned to become the only permanently crewed human habitat in orbit. The constant stream of Shenzhou crew missions and Tianzhou cargo flights to service this station account for a significant portion of the annual launch total. They are the lifeblood of China's permanent presence in space. But human spaceflight is only one pillar of the grand strategy. Perhaps even more consequential is a vast constellation of satellites that has fundamentally reshaped global geopolitics. This is the Beidou Navigation Satellite System. For decades, the world has run on America's Global Positioning System, or GPS. This ubiquitous utility, from guiding cars to timing financial transactions, was always a military asset owned and operated by the US Department of Defense. Any nation relying on it was in effect borrowing a strategic tool from a potential adversary who could degrade or deny access at any time. For China, this dependency was untenable. The construction of Beidou was a national priority of the highest order. It required dozens of launches, placing satellites into different orbital planes to ensure total global coverage. Think of it as a vast independent nervous system for the 21st century. It guides commercial shipping coordinates, disaster relief enables precision agriculture, and critically directs every asset in the People's Liberation Army, from individual soldiers to hypersonic missiles. Completing this network was a primary driver of the launch surge. Now, Beidou is not just an alternative to GPS. For many nations in Asia, Africa, and along the Belt and Road Initiative, it is the preferred system. China is exporting its celestial infrastructure, creating new dependencies and standards. With low Earth orbit and geostationary orbit now comprehensively populated, China's gaze has turned to the next most logical destination, the Moon. Its lunar exploration program, named Chang'e, after the Chinese moon goddess, has been a string of remarkable methodical successes. Chang'e 1 and 2 were orbiters mapping the surface. Chang'e 3 achieved the first soft landing on the Moon for China. Then came the masterstroke Chang'e 4, which performed the first ever landing on the far side of the Moon, a place perpetually hidden from Earth, a feat of unprecedented navigational and communications skill. Following this triumph, Chang'e 5 landed scooped-up lunar samples and returned them to Earth, making China only the third nation to do so and the first in over 40 years. These missions are not just scientific expeditions, they are prospecting missions. They are precursors to the ultimate goal, a permanent human presence on the Moon. This is the International Lunar Research Station, or ILRS. Presented as an open and collaborative project, it stands as a direct architectural and political rival to NASA's Artemis program. While the Artemis Accords, a US-led framework for lunar exploration, have been signed by many traditional American allies, the ILRS is attracting a different coalition of partners, including Russia and others. We are witnessing the beginning of a great divergence in space, the formation of two distinct philosophical and geopolitical blocks, each with its own vision for how humanity will settle the solar system. The frenetic launch pace of 2025 is in part about laying the logistical groundwork for this monumental lunar ambition, testing the heavy-lift rockets, and deploying the communications relays necessary to support a base on another world. The new space race is fundamentally different from the first. The Cold War contest was an ideological duel, a sprint for prestige. It was about planting a flag, leaving footprints, and proving the superiority of one system over another. This new competition is a marathon for position and resources. It is about creating permanent, sustainable infrastructure. It is about who will write the rules for space traffic management. It is about who will have priority access to lunar resources like water ice, which can be converted into rocket fuel, the essential ingredient for a true spacefaring economy. It is about securing the ultimate high ground, not just militarily but economically and scientifically. The American response has been a fascinating mixture of alarm and adaptation. The creation of the US Space Force was a direct acknowledgement of this new reality. But unlike China's state-controlled and centrally funded model, the American strategy has increasingly relied on a symbiotic partnership with its own burgeoning commercial space industry. The stunning launch cadence of SpaceX is the most visible manifestation of this. In many ways, the duel between SpaceX's Starship and China's Long March 9, two super heavy lift vehicles designed to open up the solar system, is the perfect metaphor for this new race. One is the product of a disruptive, iconoclastic private enterprise. The other, the pinnacle of a determined, patient, state-driven national project. The competition is not just between two nations, but between two profoundly different models of innovation and progress. What does a future defined by this rivalry look like? It is possible we are heading toward a bifurcated solar system. One set of outposts on the Moon and Mars flying the flags of the Artemis nations, communicating on one set of frequencies operating under one legal framework, and another set of bases, part of the ILRS, using Beidou for navigation and adhering to a different set of protocols established by Beijing and its partners. Scientific collaboration, which has often been a bridge between earthly divides, could become siloed. Data might not be shared freely. Discoveries could be held as national secrets. The dream of space as a unifying frontier for all humankind could give way to a reality of celestial spheres of influence. Yet there is another, more optimistic perspective. Competition throughout history has been a powerful catalyst for innovation. The pressure of the original space race accelerated technological development at a rate that would have been unimaginable in peacetime. It gave us satellite communications, GPS, medical advancements, and microelectronics. Could this new era of intense competition do the same? Could the dual ambitions of Artemis and the ILRS pushing each other forward result in two permanent bases on the Moon, far faster than a single collaborative effort ever could? Could this rivalry born of earthly tensions paradoxically accelerate humanity's destiny as a multi-planetary species? This is the great unanswered question of our time. So we return to the darkness of the Gobi Desert, to that single point of light ascending into the infinite. It is carrying a satellite, a piece of a larger puzzle. Perhaps it is a communications node for the ILRS. Maybe it is an ocean surveillance platform. Or it could be one more link in a new global internet constellation. The specific payload is almost secondary to the act itself. The launch is the message. Each fiery departure from Jiuquan, Taiyuan, Xichang, and Wenchang is another sentence in a long declaration of intent. It speaks of patience turned to purpose, of humiliation turned to ambition. It is the sound of a plan decades in the making, reaching its thunderous crescendo. The sky above us is no longer a pristine wilderness. It is becoming a territory, an extension of human civilization, with all its complexities, its rivalries, and its aspirations. The record-breaking launch manifest of 2025 is not the end of the story. It is the end of the beginning. It signals a new epoch in our relationship with the cosmos, a time when the journey to the stars is no longer a rare and momentous event, but a steady, continuous, and determined industrial process. Two distinct paths to the future are now being paved with fire and ambition. And the world watches, holding its breath, as the heavens fill with the machinery and the dreams of a species reaching once again for the void.